day 10 out of 21 smedium challenge, and I'm gonna be 1000% for real with you. I was not feeling it, but you know what? We got to it anyways. You got to start off with the prayer because your strength comes from God. When you are weak, He is your strength. If you can still hear in my voice, you know, the pollen's been beating me up a little bit, but we made it do what it had to do. Ever been mad at God for something that you did? Oh, okay, so I'm not alone. Okay, I found myself being mad at God for the decisions that I made, for stepping away from Him, for not listening to Him and trying to do things my way. And then I get mad at the consequences to my actions. I get mad at how it all plays out, when if I was just quiet, listened to the Lord, and obeyed Him, it would not have turned out that way. Hebrews 13 verse 16 says, "And do not forget to do good and to share with others, for which such sacrifices God is pleased." But you know what also God is pleased at is obedience. Obedience is greater than sacrifice. A lot of times we have to fast, we have to sacrifice, give up our idols. But if we were to just obey and follow God's laws, rules, and ways, we wouldn't have to sacrifice so much. It would just be following in obedience. We wouldn't be hurt. A lot of times if God says, stay away from that man, and you go be with that man and have a family and kids with that man, now you got to sacrifice and realign and put yourself back on God. You got to pick up the pieces that are broken. But God is saying, I told you to stay away from him so you would not be broken. Same thing with our sacrifices. We just have to obey Him. I know you can't spot where you lose fat, but you can spot in the places that you want to grow muscle, right? So lately I've been trying to grow me a shelf. Well, perfect. Yeah, no, I didn't got to get into it. I'm trying to grow me a shelf, but a lot of the exercises are actually to build and grow your thighs as well. Why is that? Because you can't have a big booty and tiny legs. I mean, you can, but I'm saying you can't have a skyscraper, but your foundation is rocky. You can't expect God to give you the whole world, but your foundation with Him is rocky. It's like you have to build your foundation on Him. He is the firm foundation rather than building it on sand. God is seasoning you and letting you marinate. Like you season that chicken and you let it sit for 40 minutes. If you put it in the freezer, let it sit for a week, and it tastes a lot better. God is seasoning you with what He needs you to be with your purpose. And He's letting that marinate inside of you so that your flavor, your joy, your perspective on life is more flavorful. It's seasoned. So I was in the kitchen the other day cooking with my son and my daughter. And so we was making the cream of wheat like I told you I was going to eat. And basically I was letting my daughter put the cream of wheat inside of the milk that was on the stove. Usually that's my son's job because you're messing with the heat and he's a little bit older. But as she's getting older, I want to make sure that she knows what she's doing. So my son is really eager. He's trying to get to the stove too. So now at this point, they're trying to fight by the stove. I'm like, no, bro, you got a different job. I didn't tell him his job, what it was. I'm like, just wait. I'm like, don't try to focus on her job that you missed out on yours. Cool. I'm still working with her, putting the cream of wheat in there, stirring it up. He's trying to do it again. He's trying to get more cream of wheat for her to put in there. I'm like, that's too much. She don't need that much because we got to let it thicken up. It's not ready for it yet. Just wait. Your job is not ready yet. I still didn't tell him what his job was. I'm like, don't miss out on your job. So finally we get to the point where it's almost his time for the job. And what happens is he gets his sister in trouble where she's not paying attention or listening to me. Because, you know, the rule is if you're not listening in the kitchen, you got to get out. So she's not listening to me. So guess what? Nobody got a job. Everybody got to get out the kitchen. And what I took from that was sometimes we be so eager to see what God has for us. He tells us the plan in our dreams. You got a job. You got this dream. You're going to get it. But He doesn't necessarily tell us the steps. I didn't tell him what his job was. Why? Because he would try to get the sweetened condensed milk to put in the cream of wheat before the cream of wheat was ready. We would try to get to our dreams before our dreams are ready for us. God is working in everybody's lives. He's working and doing something else, but we're going to be so eager to try to get to our dreams, get to the goals, that we're going to rush and do it and squander it, and it's not going to be as good or give God the glory like it would have if we would have just waited. I pray my analogies make sense. I learn a lot from my children. And when they say mothers will be redeemed by their children, I really feel like I learn a lot as I'm parenting with my children. I was telling my son too why he was so eager and he was feeling saddened because he was like, oh, I don't have a job. And I tell him, like, I'm a fair mom. God's a fair God. I'm a fair mom. You gonna have a job and she gonna have a job. I don't have more love for you than I have for them. He don't have more love for you, and you think you're righteous than he does for the sinner that you deem as a sinner because they stripping on a pole or they killing people. He got the same amount of love for you as they do for them. I got the same amount of love for all of my children. I'm a fair mom. And there's no gender differences in my home because I grew up in a home full of a lot of women, a lot of girls. So we can do anything the boys can do. So there's no gender differences. Now, there are age differences. My son takes out the trash by himself because he is 5 years old and I'm letting him be a big boy. I'm not letting my 2-year-old daughter take the trash out by herself. But guess what? We can all go and make a trip to the trash dump together. Same thing as God's children. You have some people who are infants in Christ, babies in Christ, toddlers in Christ, adults in Christ. You have different age levels that you are with your walk with Christ. And God is not going to give someone that may be new in faith a certain burden or a weight to carry and a lesson that someone that's been in their faith for 20 years because they wouldn't be able to sustain it. I wouldn't give my 2-year-old a 10 pounds because she would not be able to hold that weight. And it would actually hinder her instead of bettering her. Where I can give my son, I probably still wouldn't give him the 10 pounds. I might give him 5 pounds. And for that, he may be able to get stronger and build his weights, have a little resistance, but continue to build himself. And that's the same thing that God does for us. If you don't have kids, have them. They're great for your tax refunds. And I'm just playing. Love you.